Hello, everyone, and welcome here to the very first episode of StormWatch. Doing something new here today, folks. No StarCraft 2 replay videos today. I hope to be doing both of those for the next little while, but this week, this is the only one that's coming out. Because I'm here to talk to you about the new Frost Giant Games game. Yes, very helpful with that. Stormgate. It was announced last year, and new is probably not the right word to be using because it's not out yet. As I was saying, it was announced last year at the... I can never remember the name, but it's like the PC Games Fest or something along those lines. It was announced with a video we will be watching soon. It was an announcement. It was purely cinematic trailer. Nothing in that had anything to do with gameplay. However, this coming Sunday, in fact, if you're watching this on release, June the 11th, 2023, we will be getting the first gameplay videos. Which, needless to say, I'm excited to see. Because this episode is going to be, what the hell is Stormgate? What the infernal is Stormgate? You'll understand that later. What is this game, and why should I care? But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open with the cinematic trailer that they released.
Discovery, this is Command. Storm's in your way. Prepare for extraction.
Signal's breaking up. Command, I'll do one last scan. See you soon. Over. Okay, hurry. Now we're talking. Command, I may be onto something. I have it, Command. Repeat, I have it. Mission accomplished.
Hang tight, Doc. I've got this.
Glad you could make it.
We gotta move. Now. There's a storm coming. And hell's coming with it.
Yes, so that was the video they showed us last year. And it obviously it's not gameplay, and it doesn't tell us a huge amount beyond that. We have the Diablo-looking Infernals, who I'm guessing have come through the Stormgate. Something along these lines. That's just what it sounds like to me. That seems what the point of the game is. You can see the relationship between, the eye and the logo down here, and then this eye thing that all of these scourge-looking demons are flying out of. And you saw a little bit of a look at the human faction who have been called the Resistance. There's part of me that wants to call it Diablo versus Gundam. From what we've seen so far, my understanding is that what we're going to see on June 11th is just going to be the Resistance. It's just going to be the human faction. And yeah, and then the alpha that starts in July, I'm not sure if I said that or not, will also just be the Resistance at this point. There will be subsequent betas where obviously the Infernals will be in it. I have not seen it confirmed by developers anywhere. I really want there to be a third race. What that is, who can say? Could be anything really. But I think the game needs a third race. It's one of the things that made StarCraft great, is having that third race. Just, yes, it causes balance issues. Yes, it causes map making problems, especially in StarCraft. But it makes things so much better. It just gives you so much more variety in long-term play. And yes, so that is the game that we are going to be seeing. Now, just speaking about this alpha for a second, because I think it is important to say, please don't expect too much from this alpha. First of all, it's going to be NDA'd to hell and back. So I'm not expecting anything much more than very vague comments being allowed from because this alpha, all of your favorite StarCraft, Age of Empires, WarCraft 3, if any of those exist, content creators, they'll have invites to this. They have said that they want to have both a mix of high level players, content creators, these sorts of things. They need them involved in the game, bring up hype, get some understanding of how things actually play out at a high level. But they've also said that they want to get lower level players. So hopefully we see some absolute Bronze League shenanigans happening early in the betas. I'm not expecting any videos to be allowed to come out from this alpha. I think that, this alpha will not be allowed to be streamed or anything like that at all, sadly. But I do hope we get to hear about some of the bugs. I know we won't be able to initially, probably. But I want to hear some wacky bugs. I don't think there'll be something like Command Center Slide, which, for those of you who don't know, in StarCraft Brood War and StarCraft 2, you're allowed to lift your buildings. This includes the main base building. And normally you can only put them down, 5-6 units, whatever exactly it is, away from resources that you mine. However, there was a bug in I think it was fixed in the first patch for StarCraft, because StarCraft 1 and Brood War did in fact get patches, people. Some people don't think this, but it did. The last one was in 2001, but it did get them. But anyway, you can then land your command center, and then I think you right click near the minerals really quickly, and then it would land, move over, and then you would just basically instantly mine all of your resources. I don't think that's going to be in this game, but I want a bug on that level of just well, this is unfair. And obviously, as well as bugs, even the Resistance, I don't think will be finished. There will be missing voice lines. There probably won't be a soundtrack. Textures and animations will be noticeably missing, I suspect. Or at least noticeably not completed. And hell, a lot of the backgrounds are not going to look great. I think it's going to look very unfinished. Which is to be expected. But I will admit that I am envious of those people. Who knows, maybe if 100,000 people watch this, an alpha invite will mysteriously appear in my inbox, and then I'll get to sit there and go, well, I'd love to talk about this, but because I've played it, I think it might breach the NDA if I do. Which would be a shame, because I do actually want to talk about this. Try and make this sort of a weekly series, at least for a while. Because there has been a lot of things that have been released and talked about. And sort of try and give people one solid, condensed spot to do that. However, I may run out of time. By the time the game comes out, who knows? It may just turn into a little bit of story time. And like I said, I'll try to get some... It is just me today. However, I do want to try and get some guests on. Maybe try and convince one or two of my friends. I know I only really know one or two people who are big into RTS, and they might not want to appear. But hopefully some people will eventually come on, and we can talk. I'd like to talk to a range of people. Everybody from people who only play campaign in RTS games, all the way up to pros, aspiring pros. Okay, yeah, none of that's going to happen. But people who take 1v1 and ladder seriously. And speaking of campaign, just briefly, they have very much come out and said that there is 4 things that they think are very key to this game, and I completely agree with them. Number 1 is campaign. Because, let's be real, how many people here have gone into a game and not played the camp? Like, the campaigns are the things that get you into RTS games. They are the reasons why you start playing, and they are the reasons why you get interested in the game. You play through the campaign and say, I want to play more. That's incredibly key. Second pillar they've talked about is co-op. So, a lot of you will have played StarCraft 2 and played the co-op commanders mode. And everything I've heard is that 80% of players played campaign, played some co-op, and never once looked at the ladder. Like, not even played a couple of games and then decided it wasn't them and went back to playing co-op and that. No. These are people who played through, who never touched multiplayer. It's something like 80% of players. And first of all, I want to start off in saying, if you're one of those people watching this, first of all, thank you for watching. Second of all, please like and subscribe. While you're here, you might as well. I will be talking more about this game. And the second thing is there's nothing wrong with that. Multiplayer games, competitive multiplayer, is not for everyone. But if you want to play with your friends, my understanding is the campaign's meant to have some co-op / multiplayer features built in. But co-op is really where you'll get the replayable content. Like, campaigns are great, and I love them. And there is definitely replayability in them, but eventually you run out. Whereas you get something like mutations in co-op mode, co-op commanders in StarCraft, and there are still huge numbers of people who played that through every week. They might not be playing it every game, but they'll log in and they'll do their co-op, they'll do their brutal mutation for the week. And I've never done it myself. Co-op never appealed to me, but huge number of people do it, and I commend them for it. The third one is the competitive modes. Now, my understanding, and I could have misunderstood something, or something could have changed, or, but 1v1, that's the hyper competitive, everybody, okay, this is a core game mode because it's RTS, and 1v1 is one of the pillars of RTS. Like, go all the way back to 1998 with Brood War, and 2v2 was never a popular game mode. Possibly because Zerg and Zerg were horribly OP, but it was never that popular. But the 1v1 sparked a national obsession that lasted 10 years. It took League of Legends eventually knocked it off its throne, and I honestly think that if the infighting between Blizzard and Kesper hadn't been as bad, StarCraft could be a lot bigger still in Korea. Unfortunately, and the fact that Blizzard had no concept of how to handle PC bugs didn't help either, and how to work with that culture. And then, of course, our fourth game mode. But sorry, and I was saying yes. So you got that 1v1s, and also 3v3s. My understanding is they consider this as an important thing to design as a core concept of the game, so that you can, because you look at what all of the big, at least I assume this is their logic. You look at all of the big esports games, and just sort of like a lot of the big Twitch viewing games that get consistently high views. They're team games, like your Counter Strikes, they're your Valorant, your League of Legends, your Dota. All these games have been the biggest on Twitch since 2012 or 2013 or 14, probably when StarCraft 2 got knocked off the perch and never recovered. StarCraft 2, obviously, part of the reason StarCraft 2 was that big for so long was because it was the reason why Twitch existed. So I suspect people these days forget that fact, but Twitch was set up because they wanted to get all of the StarCraft players off of Justin TV. And look where it is now. Yes. And the fourth one being everyone's favorite, mods. User-generated content. And that has been another thing that has been so much, like, you look at every good RTS game ever, they've got some of the most powerful editors, and they tend to be built into the game that you will ever see. And you look at it now, Age of Empires 2, that still exists today because of modders. Definitive Edition, the HD remaster, the Definitive Edition, all of that is solely due to the work of modders who eventually got hired on as developers to continue developing that game. And, Dota was user-generated content. An entire genre, and my understanding as well, although this is before my time, is the tower defense existing as a genre is because of StarCraft. And you think of how many Flash tower defense games exist now. So you can just see how important user-generated content is to bringing people back to the game, getting them interested, and having fun in what could be a great game. And people are coming back. Then I hope that they set up the starter UI in such a way that you go, all right, I want to play some of my, tower defense game. You get in and go, there's a tournament on. I might watch that, actually. That seems like fun. And then that draws interest in. A lot of those people still won't play 1v1. Some of them will. Builds more momentum, gets more people interested in the scene, and that's how I think this game should try to grow. It shouldn't go out and say, on launch, yes, we're having $1 million tournament this year, and 5 people watch it, and it gets canned forever. I think that we should try to keep it much more natural, the growth of it. And who knows what will happen. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you and say that I probably speak, personally at least, mostly from a competitive mode, but the camp like all of these other things are vitally important. I mean, I played a bunch of mono battles, a bunch of was it Mafia? Yeah, no, someone made a great version of Mafia in StarCraft 2 and all of these sorts of things. And yeah, those back in the day I played heaps of them. I don't so much anymore, but the arcade was a lot of fun, and it was a bad version of what could be done with user-generated content. So, also important to note as well, this game will be free to play. How exactly that works out and entails, I don't know. I think it's vitally important that they make sure that the base campaign is free. Whatever else happens, the base campaign needs to be free. One base competitive game and access to arcades and such, and playing at least some parts of co-op need to be free to play. And I think they will. I think they will probably release paid campaigns later on. I suspect they will release new commanders, heroes, whatever in co-op mode later on. You'll have to pay for that. Wouldn't surprise me if they allow some methods for monetization in some of the user-generated game modes, similar to what Direct Strike in StarCraft 2 does, to my knowledge, where you can pay for skins and things. But yes, I think the microtransactions and things they won't have gameplay impact, apart from maybe blinding your opponent sometimes with a particularly garish skin. What else do I want to talk about? Oh yes, the game speed. From what I have heard, they looked at the game, they looked at RTSs going around, and a lot of the people making this game were key developers in StarCraft 2, which I think is a good thing, and I'll come back to that quickly in a second. But they looked at the RTS, and they said, StarCraft 2 is great, units move around great, it's great for controlling, however, everything dies instantly. Things die way too quickly. I looked at all the games and see WarCraft 3, which can have some incredibly intense and skillful and micro battles involving multiple units using multiple abilities. However, it takes a bit long. Like, I think a grunt versus a footman, I don't know. They take over 30 seconds to kill each other. It might be over a minute. I don't know exactly, but I do understand that it is absolutely glacial. That's too slow. They said they wanted to be somewhere in the middle. Where exactly that ends up being, hopefully we'll find out in July. Also, they have confirmed at this point in time, at the very least, that there will not be hero units. So we will not see the WarCraft 3 hero units moving around the map, killing creeps to get experience, to build, etc. However, 3v3 may, and I'd be very surprised if at least some of the co-op characters are not. At least some of the co-op characters, I imagine, will have heroes. Whether they have experience, sort of an experience bar system to get more abilities. Yeah, probably, I suspect, but we'll have to see. 3v3s may have that as well. We'll have to see. Way too early to say. I'm expecting this July to have like 1v1s and that'll be about it. Just because I think it'll be mostly about validating the engine and some of the basic concepts, because rather than serious design, like, they want to make sure that they're going in the correct direction with design. I don't think they're going to be worried about things like balance and features, if that makes sense. It's just making sure that their core gameplay loop is fun. There's also been discussion about... Sorry, actually, I'll say this instead. I think the other thing you should expect from this, I suspect, is... I don't know if there'll be 2 resources, 3 resources, could be probably be 2 or 3. There will be a supply system as well that I suspect will be similar to the StarCraft supply system rather than the Age of Empires one. Where you have different units costing different amounts of supply. And... Sorry. But I suspect that it will be more along the StarCraft model of economy rather than the Relic, Company of Heroes system, which is one I really don't like, by the way, because it's not something you actively do. You just randomly send units around the map and then you get more resources. I don't like it. instead they're going to go for more of the StarCraft system, again, as opposed to, say, the Age of Empires system, where there's just randomly resources scattered around the map and you pick them up. I think it'll be the StarCraft system of having an expansion. So there's a bunch of resources here, so you set a base up here, and then you can mine them. You have to build more workers to get them. I think that is my favorite system for an RTS. I think it works really well, and I hope to see more of that. They've also talked about wanting to make this a much more social RTS experience, which, I'll be honest, they say things like, we want this to be the first truly social RTS. That sounds horribly corporate buzzwordy. But I think that the emphasis on co-op and 3v3 as game modes, and, maybe campaign co-op, will really help with that. Because I think RTS games, being 1v1 was very helpful for them being social early on, in the days of LAN parties and internet cafes, where you actually have to meet up to play with your friends. Because, the internet sucks and all that sort of thing. Because the 1v1 format works well when you've got 4 or 5 mates crammed into the room, and you can't play both sides of a Counter-Strike game, and you probably can't even play one side properly, and all this sort of thing. So you play you play your RTS game against each other. Whereas nowadays we're in the days of online matchmaking and all of these sorts of things. So you sit there, you log into Discord with your 3 mates, and you go, well, I can't really play StarCraft, can we? Because there's 3 of us here. Or, we can't really play. It's like, I don't really want to play 3 different games of ladder against randoms on the internet. Because I don't know if you've ever been in a Discord call when you're playing a 1v1 ladder game with friends talking about random. It's a very odd experience, and you can't really talk to anyone. That's just background noise that's being unhelpful. Whereas if you're playing a 3v3 together, wow, you're in this together. Or even if you're 2 players of a 3v3 together, you're in this together. You're fighting back the opponents. So I think there will be that social aspect. And as well, with those gameplay modes being more important, I'm not one of these people, but I know there are a lot of people who make friends online like that. So that will promote that. And that actually does help 1v1 a lot as well, because having a group of friends who play the game, having, like guilds and MMOs or the old clans, which I think clans were an aspect of that sort of meet-up nature of RTS back in the day as well. But having, even if it's all online, having, your clan to work together and build up can be really helpful, Really, really, really can make you a lot better having someone sit there going, doing that wrong, doing that wrong, doing that wrong. Okay, that was good. And just getting that cooperative spirit of building together. So hopefully it will be good. Hopefully we get some good tutorials as well, because having recently introduced 1 or 2 people to StarCraft, the StarCraft has tutorials now. It didn't back in the day. I never realized how intimidating RTS can be to get into, considering that I started playing them at 6. But RTS is really intimidating to get into. And, having an APM of 10 for a new player is actually not that bad. I believe it or not, it feels like it's horrible, but it's actually, that's the speed that new players have to play at, because it's all they can manage. Now, what shall I do next? I think I want to have a look at some art next. So, I drop back out. I have some concept art. My understanding is that when they had they had a talk with a bunch of streamers, all the people, the content creators that are going to be part of the alpha, and this was a image pack basically that they gave to them. So got some random resistance people. This might be from, storyboarding, cutscene storyboarding or something, I imagine. Here's another character. Maybe this will be a 3v3 hero. Probably also going to be campaign characters, I suspect. Here we see... I think this is map concept art. We've got a couple of mechs here, so we see a couple of resistance units. We see high ground impacting around. One of the things that I have heard them say is they want to have more reasons for people to be on the map. So terrain is going to be a lot more important. Which I definitely think is a good thing. I'm not sure if the 50-50 hit chance from StarCraft Brood War is a good idea. I think that something a little bit more in-depth than the high ground, low ground vision of StarCraft 2 would be good. However, exactly how it ends up, hard to say. This, I'm fairly certain is campaign level. And I'll show you a reason for that in a minute. However, this is interesting. Some sort of research facility anyway. Are they... Oh, I never realized they're mining into that. That seems like a bad idea. This, I think, is some sort of idea of what a base will look like. I think this command center is way too big for this base, if this is what a main base is going to look like. I'm calling it a command center. I'm probably going to continue calling it a command center after the release, no matter what they call it, because that's what it is, that's what it looks like, and I'm guessing that's resistance. But, there's no resources in this image either, so... I believe that this is the same map from earlier, except all of that drilling has woken up those demons and they've killed everyone in the facility. This is a very badly placed command center, I'd imagine. I don't know. There might be some resources around here. Again, this is concept art so far. This one might be an engine, but it's hard to say. And obviously this is UI mock-ups. I do hope they use the whole bottom of the screen. I think that there is just dead space. So I think having... Basically, I want a hole in my UI on the bottom. I want it in the middle. I think it's more usable than an awkward spot on the corner. Although, that may be there to prevent, the brew world problems of not being able to kill anything in the bottom left corner of the map. To me, this looks in engine. What that's there to build, I couldn't tell you. It might be a supply depot for all I know. Maybe it's a greenhouse of some description. But I'm showing you these just so we can all go on the same page. It's got a very clear and distinctive art style. I do like it. I think that, because part of the thing as well is you got to remember this needs to be designed to run on an absolute potato. Like GLaDOS from what's it called? Portal 2. The Portal 2 GLaDOS should be able to run this game if it wants to be successful. With obviously these are the higher level resolution sort of thing, at least for what they have now, and detail and all that. But you can see how something like this could scale down in texture quality and all of that sort of thing and still be very distinctive as to what it actually is. And that is vitally important. And it also stand out a lot from the background, even as both of those become less clear. Less clear. This, I'm guessing, this has to be the basic inventory, right? Sure, I would imagine. There's rocket launchers? Yeah, sure, okay. That's probably some sort of mech facility, I don't know. Do not touch the radioactive soup is all I got for that one. But as you can see, lots of circles in the resistance design. A lot of green in the flying units as well. I guess there's some sort of spellcaster as well, because it has an energy bar there. Spellcasters are a thing that I think they definitely should have in the game. Like, spellcasters are very good and important. I don't know how big a deal I want them to be. So, again, you can see some more bushes and terrain features in this as well, which I think will be good. And then, of course, the chicken, which look like they may be the gag of this game, which I'm perfectly okay with. It is very important that when I click on my mech for 15 times in a row, he says, either squawks like a chicken or he says that he's gonna I don't know, throw a chicken at me or something. It is a fun feature of, I think Blizzard RTSs have done in particular. I'm sure other people have as well. I like it. I want to see more of it. But yes, that is the image dump they released on us. A couple of weeks ago, when people heard that they were going to be allowed in to the alpha. Now, is there anything else I want to talk about today? Oh yes, I briefly touched on this looking at the concept art. Let's find something else. Ah yeah, here's a nice image. They said they want map control, units to get out on the map more. How exactly that form will take, obviously, we don't know. And we will have to see. I doubt there'll be neutral units on the map, because the reason why that's such a thing in Warcraft 3 is because of experience. And I don't think experience is going to be a thing. Without heroes, I don't think it makes sense to have experience on units, and I don't think experience on units is a terribly brilliant mechanic anyway. Some may disagree with me, but I think it doesn't quite fit into RTS game philosophy for me brilliantly. Although it could work in something like a campaign or co-op mode, it could work. But in terms of the sort of competitive 1v1, I don't like it. But maybe there'll be temporary damage buffs or things like that out on the map that could be good to try to avoid you just sitting back in your base and waiting for your opponent to roll in. But obviously, all of these things are things we don't know yet, and honestly, things that probably won't even be in the July alpha very much. But I look forward to hearing what various people are saying about how this game can, because it's actually probably the thing that will be very noticeable in this game is how it controls. They for this game, they were planning on using Unreal 5. And my understanding was that it was fine, but it just didn't scale up to having hundreds of units on screen very well. Because Unreal is really it's more of a FPS engine at its core concept, so you're only really controlling one thing, and there's maybe 20 things moving around. But so my understanding is they basically took the engine and borderline rewrote it from the ground up to be an RTS engine. So hopefully it will control better than StarCraft. They've talked about having replays that, if you've ever seen a StarCraft 2 replay, you sort of have to, it doesn't jump around very well. You can do it, but it doesn't do it very well. And part of the reason for that is it's how they have to keep save file size down. So they have to do it that way, but it can be a little bit jerky to try and move around. They've talked about scrubbable replays in this. I believe that's just saying that you can skip to 10 minutes into the game as soon as you load up the replay straight away. That's what I'm hoping it is anyway. And yes, that will be good. Alright, let me do one last check of my notes. Alright, that is everything I wanted to talk to you about this week. If you have made it to the end, I congratulate you because I have been rambling. Regardless, I thank you all. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more, and also if you haven't and I've intrigued you about this game, go to Steam, go wishlist it. They're hanging around the top 100 of the most wishlisted on Steam, and I think they see Steam wishlisting as a way of people look at the top wish-listed games and get interested, there's probably some sort of budget back end that will help them if they can get more people interested, get more wish-listed. Check out all of those gameplay videos that they release. Tell anybody you know that might be interested in RTS to follow this game, pay attention to it. Jump in when the betas come out, and try to be part. Make RTS great again. Oh god, RTS never stopped being great, but it has been in a lull recently. I do think that StarCraft 2 is currently the best RTS released, and that was over 10 years ago. So let's hope that this can be the great spiritual successor to it. Next week, I will be going over the gameplay video. That's it. I'll be having a look at it, seeing what I can pass out of it. Maybe try to drag a friend or two along to talk things over with, and then following that, I want to talk about the people involved, the previous work they've done on StarCraft, and see if I can dig out some people who've worked on other games as well. Because I think they haven't just looked at the Blizzard games for this. I think they've looked at Age of Empires. I think they've looked at Iron Harvest. I think and a lot of those other games are things not to do, but there are things to take from those other games that will be important. So, in conclusion, game looks awesome. Tell everyone about it. Thank you for watching. See you next time.